All right, today we are going to get into something pretty cool. We're diving into this really ancient, powerful poem, Psalm 29. And what it does is it takes something we've all seen, right? A thunderstorm, and it uses it to tell a much bigger story about power, chaos, and, believe it or not, a really surprising kind of peace. So, let's get into it.
So let's start with the central question here, the one that really gets this whole poem going. What if a thunderstorm could actually speak? I mean, what would it even say? Well, Psalm 29 basically imagines just that. It frames that roar of the storm not as just some random noise, but as a voice with a very specific message to deliver.
So, where does the story kick off? Well, it's probably not where you'd expect. It doesn't start on the ground with dark clouds gathering. Nope, it begins up in the heavens with this grand, almost formal call to worship.
Yeah, listen to this. The very first command in the poem isn't even for us humans. It's aimed at heavenly beings. The poet is immediately setting the stage on this massive cosmic scale. So before a single thunderclap is heard on earth, there's a summons in the celestial court, a call to recognize ultimate glory and strength. It's all about establishing the authority of the voice we're about to hear.
Okay, so after that big opening in the heavens, the scene shifts. And now we hear it, the first rumble. The main character of this poem, the voice of the Lord, finally makes its entrance. And at first, we hear it from a distance, way out over the sea. So the voice is straight up identified as thunder, and it's starting out over the mighty waters. You can just picture this vast, chaotic ocean, maybe like the Mediterranean Sea. The poem is brilliant here. It's building all this tension by describing this immense power that's still far away, but you know it's coming your way. You can almost feel the air start to charge.
And now, the poem gives us the first of two key descriptions of this voice. It's simple, it's blunt, it is powerful. There's no fancy language yet, just this raw statement of pure, unbridled strength. You know, the kind of power that just shakes everything to its core.
And then, right on the heels of powerful, we get majestic. See, this isn't just random chaotic noise, it's got a kind of terrifying beauty to it. The poem does this masterfully, using this repetition, the voice of the Lord, the voice of the Lord. It's like a drumbeat, signaling us to pay really close attention, because this powerful, majestic voice is about to do something.
And here we go. The storm makes landfall. This is the climax of the poem, where all that potential energy we've been hearing about is finally let loose on the landscape in this cascade of effects.
Let's just trace the path of this voice, of this storm. First, it slams into the legendary massive cedars of Lebanon, snapping these huge trees like they're twigs. Then, its power is so great it makes the mountains themselves look like they're skipping and jumping around. Next, it strikes with flashes of lightning, and then it sweeps south, shaking the huge, empty desert of Kadesh. And finally, it tears through the forests, twisting giant oaks and just stripping them bare. It's a picture of total, overwhelming force.
And then, bam! Suddenly, the poem just pivots. Right in the middle of this description of absolute destruction, we cut back to that heavenly temple from the very beginning. And what's the reaction to this terrifying display? It's not fear. It's not panic. It's a unified, spontaneous shout of glory. And this just brilliantly shows that the point of all this power isn't just destruction. It's to inspire pure, unadulterated awe.
And just like that, just as quickly as it arrived, the storm passes. The whole tone shifts now to one of calm, of deep reflection. The chaos is over. And in the quiet aftermath, we're finally shown the real purpose behind that whole storm.
The imagery here is, it's profound. That flood, all that chaotic, destructive power from the storm, it isn't just gone. Instead, it has become the very foundation for a throne. The power that seems so totally out of control is now revealed as the basis for eternal stability. For kingship, the chaos has been completely mastered.
And this contrast right here, this is the heart of the entire poem. The same voice that thunders and breaks and strikes and shakes is the voice of the king who is enthroned forever, who gives strength, who blesses with peace. The psalmist is making this direct connection. The terrifying power you see in the natural world comes from the exact same source as our security and our blessing. The one who commands the chaos is the one who provides real peace.
And this is it, the final, beautiful conclusion.
After we've tracked this storm all the way from the heavens over the sea and across the land, the poem lands on this incredibly personal, intimate promise. All of that cosmic power, all that earth-shaking strength, it isn't meant for destruction. Its ultimate goal, its final purpose, is to give strength and bless his people with peace. It's got to be the most surprising ending you could imagine for a poem about a storm.
So the psalm kind of leaves us with this final thought to chew on. It uses a thunderstorm to point people toward this feeling of awe, an awe that leads to worship, and eventually a feeling of peace, which, it makes you wonder, in our world today, where do we find that kind of awe? Whether it's looking up at the stars, or through a microscope, or at a piece of art, what does that feeling point to for us?